can divert it, and we got to start working on it immediately. And it's called managing the little things. And when you have a $750,000 increase over projected in overtime, it needs to be dealt with.
Thank you, Supervisor. A couple of quick comments, and then we'll move along. In regards to Budget Unit 4050, $575,000, primarily due to out-of-county placement costs. Just information, I'd like to see a list with total number of contracts with the total dollar amount attributable to those contracts, just for information. In regards to the revenue description, the property tax we're projecting for 0809 at $26,908,570. That's a million, 1.1 million over what we had for actuals for this year. I caution us to be very conservative. In those projections.
This particular one, I had a report from the assessor, and they are 58% complete with their assessment procedures for 2008-09. At this point, they are at 4.25% increase over last year. I plugged in a 4.5. She said it may reach 5%, but I plugged in 4.5 at this point just to be conservative.
And last year was what percentage?
9 point something.
8, 9. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I would much rather have additional money come in than be budgeting too less.
Oh, absolutely.
So
you and me both.
one other thing, line 14, the TOT.
Yes.
You know, this board has been unanimously behind county promotion, and I see that number falling clear across the board there from 05 to projection estimate 0809, and you know, this board member was certainly wanting that to go exactly the opposite direction and not be falling behind. As far as delinquent properties, I want to nail those son of a guns to the wall. TOT is an expected expenditure for owning transient type of occupancy. It's not to be set aside and bargained with the county later on how much taxes we owe. You know, it wasn't too long ago that we had a very public situation with a TOT situation being in arrears, and you know, the guy was facing a felony. I don't know how it ended up, but this is not a situation I want to become a norm. You know, bargaining, paying your taxes and this and that, that's criminal. And as far as TOT, it's a normal expense of a business, and it shouldn't be a bargaining situation later on ending up in court. And I just don't want to go lightly on those folks. I don't care if they're from the coast. I don't care if they're from the inland. It's across the board. That's a typical expense of doing business. And if you're not going to do that, we're going to put you in jail.
Well, it's not actually an expense. It's income that needs to be passed through to the county, so it shouldn't be negotiable. But our treasurer tax collector is quite adamant in recouping as much as we can. But the old adage of getting blood out of a turnip sometimes comes into play.
Yeah. We might go into the hotel motel business if they keep that up. Supervisor Pinches.
Just, I'd like to remind the board that we have two TOT accounts that we're in the process of collecting, and that's a total of about $500,000 right there, just with two TOT delinquent accounts.
Right.
So if we were successful there, that would jump that figure up. Hopefully we'll get some resolve on.
Yes, it would, but it's certainly not something I can count on at this point.
No. In 607, how did we have $20 revenue from the racehorse tax?
Somebody reported
Did
racehorse
we
tax.
bet on a horse and he come on a
No,
dollar?
that's a very old tax where if an individual owns a horse that is used in racing, they have to pay a tax on it, and it's strictly when we get a return and we deposit it, and that's it.
So that's a horse that's owned and resides in this county? Huh, okay. Well, I guess we're not doing very good at raising racehorses. So,
Maybe we get one of the Seabiscuits to send us to come in on.
okay, any other questions from the board? I took a little liberty there. Please excuse me and proceed.
You've pretty much asked the questions with regard to the revenue. The other line items that were significantly over from the 2007 budget are the VLF swap and the triple flip. Those were both estimated at lower than what they came in at, so that was a nice little boon to the county there. Interest income is coming in at about what it should be. We did have a little bit of SB 90 revenue that came in, that $56,000, although I can't really count on that to continue. That's one of those blessings that when you see it, you count it. Sales and use tax we expect to be under the projection. It's running at about 2.7% above last year at this point, but I don't really have any strong faith that that's going to continue. Our public safety sales tax is coming in at about 99.9% of last year, so we expect that to be about the same. Timber yield tax is, the November payment was down to about 83.5% of last year's November payment, so I expect the May payment to be reduced accordingly. So I've plugged in for the 2008-2009 estimate there. I've expected that to continue to decrease a little bit. As Jennifer mentioned, the timber harvest at Little River Airport won't be realized in this fiscal year. That's $300,000 under realized. The rest of it I think you've covered already, so unless you want to get into the whole projections of 2008-2009, which I think is the next discussion, I'll answer any questions you have.
Would you explain to me what the triple flip is?
Ooh,
if I could. I know there's the three sides to it, but I never can get them straight. It's the state took away some of our property tax revenues, and they give it back to us in the form of the VLF swap and the triple flip. That's the short version.
Yeah.
So it's really just property tax. Couldn't you include that in your secured property tax?
No.
You got to keep that in
No,
a
it's
separate
mandated
line.
that we report it this way.
Separately, okay.
Yes.
But it's basically a secured
It's
property
in lieu
tax.
of property taxes,
Yeah.
yes.
It's the mirror portion of the smoke and mirrors.
I guess this is a question, while we're on it, to the CEO, or the governor's proposal to do away with the Williamson Act subvention. Now, or that basically, in my opinion, would effectively do away with the Williamson Act. So if they do away with the Williamson Act subvention, and we as a county want to keep that in place, isn't the state going to ask us for the difference? Are we concerned about that, or is it?
Well,
I mean, it just seems to me like if the governor says he's going to do away with the Williamson Act subvention, then he would also say, well, we want the difference between the real property tax and the Williamson Act property tax revenues. We want the revenue too.
Well, you are correct.
Am I making a right assumption here?
No, I think, as Jim said, it is kind of smoke and mirrors. The governor in his January proposal did propose a 10% reduction in Williamson Act like he did with all other state departments. The problem is there's no practical way you can reduce Williamson Act by 10% because Williamson Act, there are contracts. So there's no way that you could just get a 10% reduction. Now the LAO's office, as recently as last week, had said they're the ones that said eliminate Williamson Act altogether. I think practically speaking,